would suggest that too. It saves a lot of bother.
Councillor Raker?
And I agree with Reeve Miller in that aspect too. I think my kilometers is like 38 kilometers or something, or 35. Yeah, I think I'm 38, 35. Yeah, for someone that's driving 5 kilometers, it does make a difference. And I don't know why we would take that step backwards. We've had this all along. Why would we want to take that step backwards now? And looking into the future, we could have someone from Westmeath La Paz sitting on this next council. So I disagree. I don't agree with Councillor McLaughlin. I do agree with Reeve Miller. And I think it'd be a huge, just to have that done every month. And you don't even have to, and if you're not here, you're not paid through your attendance record.
Councillor McLaughlin?
The only reason I suggested that is because we're getting an increase, and I thought maybe that would be a way of straightening. And I'm like you. I don't like the paperwork. So if we're going to do it, then we take that schedule, we take our meetings, and you get paid. Because I hate going through there and looking every month and thinking, well, when did we have the meetings, yada yada. So that was one of my reasons, just to discard it. Plus, I mean, I worked at Chalk River. I never got any mileage compensation to go to Chalk River. I chose to live here, So that was another reason that I thought it's time. And I understand at the start why it was put in. Like I say, it was just a thought, and I can go either ways. It doesn't matter to me.
Councillor Mackay?
I just think I put in for it, and when I went to all the meetings at Westmeath School, and I put in for that too. Because I don't mind. I don't make a lot of money at this business, but I don't mind. I want to be paid for my gas. I put in a lot of time, and I want to be just paid for the gas. That's all I want. And my truck's a pig on gas. I just want to say that.
Okay, so is everybody, Councillor Olmsted, do you have a comment?
Question for Marcia. Is this recorded and documented in any kind of report? So any kilometers driven, whether it be, I know the ones for any seminars, I know that's recorded, but what about regular council meetings?
Well, starting this year, Christina had asked Karen to keep track of every council member's mileage to and from council meetings. So I do have yours, even though you're only 100, I think it was meters away, or 1,000 meters away. I do have yours too. However, I don't pay yous out. I do keep track of everyone else that is farther than Cobden. I haven't been instructed yet, and that's what I was waiting for this opportunity to talk to council to see if you would like me to pay Chris Olmsted and yourself, Terry, every mileage that you're here. So other than that, normally we would just, every council member would bring in their mileage sheet, and then I would cross-reference it with the council evenings or committee meetings. I would not know at any point in time, let's say if Daryl went to the airport, I would know that until he brought in his sheet that he stated on his sheet that he went to the airport. This is the mileage.
Right. So what, if I may continue, so what I'd love to see is whether it be annually, what that councillor's base salary was, maybe what seminars and what the totals of that looked like separately, and mileage as well. So any buckets that need to be segregated. So if Councillor Mackay is getting paid $2,000 a year in mileage, and all of a sudden you have that all rolled up into a salary, into a total, well, it looks like Councillor Mackay is getting paid more than the other councillors. So I just want to be transparent.
Yes,
I'd like to see that broken down.
Yes, and that will be on the treasurer's statement at the end of the year.
Okay, thank you.
Is everybody in agreement with the CRA?
CAO has a question.
I'm just looking for language clarification in the bylaw about an automatic payment for regularly scheduled meetings. And then you would be submitting your mileage for all other meetings that we wouldn't know about.
Yeah, that's what. But the first part, is everybody in agreement with the CRA rate? so that wording can go in? And then is everybody in agreement that all mileage of council for council meetings attended here would be automatically issued, say, twice a year, maybe in June and in December? So that we're not writing checks every month, and it would be a separate check. And then the other question is also at that same time, twice a year, or however you want to input your other mileage. If you go to a conference, that would have to be put in with your travel at that time. Councillor McLaughlin?
Well, I'm thinking of committee meetings that you attend, like tomorrow night I'm going to
the airport.
To the airport commission tomorrow
Yeah.
night. Now, I mean that's about 4 times a year,
So
or
are you,
sometimes 6 times.
are you satisfied that be paid in June and in
The only problem I'd have is if I
December?
have to submit it come January, I'm struggling looking at the calendar. How many times did it go? Yeah.
Does the CAO or the treasurer get the minutes of the Pembroke and Area Airport, and it shows who has attended? Is that a way that we could track that? The other thing is with regards to the library boards and all of that. So, Bruce, do you have a suggestion?
Just an observation more than anything else. So in number 8, the recommendation was that council shall also give consideration to pay mileage to ad hoc committee and board meetings, like your example. The question is that from the municipality or is that from the councillor's home? So devil's in the details, so being clear about what you want that to be. So typically that's from your place of residence, but just so there's no misunderstanding about what you're doing and how you're calculating. And you may want to give consideration to quarterly submissions, because what will happen is, like you've indicated, is people will forget, right? So that's the liability you have from a process point of view. So one of the things that I would do is ask each of the councillors to submit to you in writing what the mileage is from their home residence to this particular location, and then you've got that. And then everything else related to mileage, if you determine it's from this municipal office or if it's from the resident, then it's an honor system. And I don't think people are going to color things for a few cents in mileage.
Yeah, and then once we identify which committees or board meetings that we would get, if we're looking at getting paid extra for, those would be the same definitions for mileage. So again, that part could be identified as well at a later date. Is that good, Councillor McLaughlin?
If we were going to do that, I'd like to see minutes from the meeting and the attendance of the meetings, so that we have documents, because there's lots of meetings I haven't seen one set of minutes from I don't know how many different meetings. So I think if you're going to start to do this, I think we need to have minutes with the attendance on of the members. I know that if you're going to the Ottawa River Power, they don't give out the minutes of their meetings. All I would ask for is attendance, so that we would know to make sure that if you're supposed to be there, were you there?
Right.
I think it's only fair.
Councillor Regier, and then Reeve.
I'm starting to rethink
Miller?
this as this is going forward. I think we as councillors need to take the responsibility. If we want to be paid for our mileage, I think we should be taking our own responsibility. I think we're just adding a lot of pressure onto our staff here for looking after our bookwork. I know exactly every meeting I attend, and when I attend it, it is logged. I submit it quarterly. It's that simple. I don't think we should be expecting any of our staff to look after our mileage. I think we're really adding on here. And I'm happy the way it was previous.
Okay, thank you. Reeve Miller?
I have to agree with Councillor Rieger. I don't think there should be any question. I don't think there's a person sitting in here that would say they went to a meeting that they didn't go to. I can't see it. And it is more paperwork and work for staff that's unnecessary. So I would support what she's saying. I think we should put the auto on and keep the system like we got it for claiming the extras. One thing we may do at some point is review if we like the extras or not, and how we do that. In the meantime, if they did it, pay them. If it gets to be too much money, we take a closer look at what we allow. I don't think it ever will.
So if you don't claim, then you, like I haven't claimed, so, Chris Olmsted hasn't claimed his 1,000 meters. Well, that's it. Yeah, so, I think we just leave it as is. Christine?
So just to clarify, because we've gone round on this a few times, and so, and it would certainly be my preference too. I don't want the staff to be having to comb through meetings and figure out who went to what. That the automatic mileage for regularly scheduled meetings and in this council chamber is automatic, and those distances have been calculated, and the payroll department has that information. And then it is council's responsibility to submit any supplemental billings for ad hoc and other meetings that we may or may not know and may or may not get minutes of, and then that is paid out by separate check quarterly. Does that sound reasonable?
Good point. I just make the observation that for councillors in making the submissions themselves over and above the standard meetings in this chambers, that those documents are public documents. So if those documents, from a transparency point of view, if somebody wants to challenge somebody's claimed mileage, that individual answers to your taxpayers. That's just the simplest thing to do.
Marcia?
So, two things, is that 54 cents per kilometer, if we're gonna go with that, is that effective today or next 2017? And number two, now that I have the submission sheets from all council members, do I pay Mr. Olmsted his mileage and yourself, even though you don't claim it, but you're here, as well as Hal and as well as Terry? So that I would just like some clarification, because I do have the sheets in my office.
I think when the bylaw is passed, that it would be effective whatever that is stated, and currently we're looking at January 1st, 2017.
Okay.
So unless, I think it might take us that long to get this passed,
Okay.
so.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
So we'll hold off as is and remain at the same until such time. Okay?
If I may, Madam Chair?
Yes.
It wasn't the intention that all of the recommendations are January 1, 2017, so it's just to give
Okay.
consideration that you're incurring costs today as it relates to your mileage and otherwise. So you may want to give consideration to when you pass your resolution as it relates to mileage as on a go-forward basis as opposed to a retroactive basis, and then you're being current in terms of the practice, just for your consideration.
Okay, Councillor McLaughlin and then Councillor Olmsted.
I think if we go back, because I remember asking that question, and the chair told me that the remuneration would be retroactive back to January 1st, 2016. I'm sure somewhere, if you go through either the minutes or the meetings, I know I asked that question, and I know that was the answer I got.
With regards to the mileage?
No.
Or with regards to everything?
Regards to the honorarium, not the mileage. The mileage would be too difficult, I wouldn't even bother with that. But the honorarium, I know I had asked.
Per meeting,
Okay.
rather than the base rate. So this would be similar to number 7, meeting per diem, is what you're suggesting?
No. And number 7, the meeting per diem? No, that's not what I was talking, no. It was your total honorarium that went back,
So number 4.
So number
4. And I'm positive you can check and see, because I know I asked that question, and I'm sure that was the answer I was given. But my mind does fail me sometimes.
And mine fails me because I don't remember at all, but that doesn't mean anything because mine fails me on a daily basis. I can't even remember your name. So, Councillor Olmsted.
I think, if my memory serves me correctly, I thought that was only the increase that we received in 2016, that it was retroactive back to the beginning of the year, and I think we've been paid that. Sorry? The what? Yeah, the 1%. The second point is, I would agree with Mr. Beakley's comment about not making everything January 1st, 2017, because we do have the training and conferences issue that we want to discuss. So I think some of it needs to be applied sooner than later.
And they can be 2 separate bylaws as well, so for expenses as well as council remuneration. Okay.
just to clarify then, would you like a motion to come forward simply dealing with the mileage issue and separate it out?
I think Councillor Olmsted is suggesting number 8, number 9, number 10 would be separated.
Okay, as a separate bylaw.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, number 9.
So moving to number 9, I just want to refer to my report for a moment. So I just want to identify that your allocation of $3,000 per council member per year was underutilized, and you only utilized 48% of your total reflective of all $21,000 for all 7 of you. I made a recommendation in my original report that's recommended council members provide a verbal report as an update for everybody else as part of the process. Whether you make a determination of the unused portion, so I made a recommendation that said council should also consider whether unused training allowance should be transferable to other members of council. So if you underutilized your account by 48%, is that something that you want to reallocate? And part of your consideration you want to give, brand new councillors typically get more or additional training than regular councils as a process. So if you're not using the fund that you set aside, I'm just making a recommendation that you should give consideration to, do you want to reallocate? So before we get into meal allowance and the other things, that was the original recommendation that was in number 9.
I'm in agreement with that. Reeve Miller?
I'm in total agreement with that too. If one councillor takes the time and effort to go do that little extra, I don't think he should be penalized for that, and I think we should be looking back on that one because it's happening right now, and that's what I would suggest. Thank you.
Christine?
Thank you. So there was discussion, Marcia, refresh me if I'm not correct, that we would pool that amount of training and conference funds for council, and then you would, I guess, just track it as the year goes by, and you could put it into your treasurer's report and let you folks know how we're counting down on what's remaining in that pool of funds.
So if I may, Madam Chair, a pool works as long as you have an approval process for who goes where. So you don't have one councillor going to everything and expect that they're covered, right? So the idea and the thinking behind a threshold or initial threshold is up to that $3,000, you can go whatever you want. But if you were going to go beyond that $3,000, how do you make the determination that somebody's allowed to do that? That's just for consideration.
Councillor McLaughlin?
That was basically what I was going to say. I think there should be, and I agree if there's extra money left there, but if somebody who has already gone to 2 conferences and somebody who hasn't used their $3,000 wants to go, then I think if there's no extra money, then you make your choice, and maybe it be done at the end of the year, where we know when they're all finished, where if there's extra, then there's no problem. I say yes, if there's money left out of the pool, that's fine.
So where there's a surplus,
yeah,
it could be allocated that way.
Yeah, and I think you have to wait to the end of the year to decide at that point.
Yeah, the problem I see is waiting until the end of the year. All the conferences they're usually over by the end of September, early October, and there's no further conferences after that. My suggestion perhaps would be that each councillor would be entitled to 2 conferences. Anything above and beyond that, they would ask for permission from council to attend. Does that make sense? Councillor McLaughlin?
Problem there is that if you attend AMO, it's the price of the same price as attending 2. Like if you attend AMO, it's the same as going to Good Roads and Kingston. That's when you say 2. I mean, that's the way it used to be. We would be allowed to go to 2 conferences, but I think it's close to $4,000 now if you want to go to AMO, if I'm not mistaken. So I like the way it is now, and I like the idea. In September, the end of September probably would be fine. There might be a workshop here or there that somebody might want to go to, but that's only a couple $100. So,
Reeve Miller?
I like the suggestion settle up after the fact, and each councillor is responsible for their $3,000, and if at the end of the year everybody's used there, I would say tough luck. That's the way it went. If there's money there to pay it, pay it, because that's only fair. We had that in our budget for that amount. I'm for once a year settling it once we know the amounts.
Okay, Councillor Mackay?
I think sometimes when the year comes, you know whether you're gonna go or not. So you could say, oh, I'm not gonna go anywhere, there's my $3,000, divide it up among the people that need it. Because you'd know probably, I'm not going to that, I'm not going to that.
I'm not going to any, so anybody's welcome to my $3,000
Right,
this
thank
year.
you.
Councillor Olmsted?
Again, I'd like to, just in the interest of transparency, I would like that, if we expect to go above the, whatever, $2,500, $3,000, that we would inform council, and council would then make a decision that, yes, Mr. Reeve Miller can go to the third conference that year. The expected total is whatever, $5,000 total, or whatever you expect to be. But I think we need to be cognizant that people are watching how many conferences and these seminars that we're attending as well.
So Christine, when is the registration for, like Eastern Ontario's coming up, AMO comes up in the fall for the following year. When do you think is a good time to take a visit the actual costing of everybody's conferences and who's going? I'm kind of thinking by the end of May, or by the end of June, that we should know if people are going over and above the $3,000 allotment.
What would you folks think? Would you entertain the notion of declaring what your intentions are at the beginning of the year? And we know that OGRA and Roma, which are now two separate conferences, which a lot of people are very unhappy about, twice the money, weeks apart. I don't know if they're going to both be held in Toronto, but I assume so. So, we know that's in February. We know when AMO comes along in the fall. Anyway, we basically can provide you with a list of what's where and what the approximate costs are. And if in January you could each say, yeah, I'd like to go to this, this, and this, we can contrast that against the budget and maybe have a discussion and figure that out, and then it's settled for the year.
Reeve Miller?
I think it would be hard for everybody to plan that far ahead. Can you sell cancellation insurance with that, Christine?
If I were a travel agent, which I'm not, and I don't know, Karen, I know that there are various, each conference is unique in terms of cancellation. The Toronto ones are much more unforgiving about trying to undo conference fees and hotel rooms. Whatever you folks wish, I think I agree that in the interest of transparency, it would be great if there could be a master list of who'd like to go to what. Maybe you could declare at the beginning of the year, and you could always, add or subtract from that. It's not a total commitment, but it gives the treasurer an idea of where we stand.
I think a declaration at the beginning of the year would at least identify who might be interested in going, and then as the registration deadline comes to fruition, that is then confirmed, that they don't go ahead and register the councillors without confirming that list at that time. Is that fair, Councillor Rieger?
I would agree with that. And I think if we really sit back and look at the end of it all, I think we will have lots of money left at the end of it because, face it, we're all working councillors. It's hard to get away too many, there's always something.
Okay, are we almost ready to put that one to? Okay. Reeve Miller?
In keeping with what Councillor Rieger said, should we not put through some kind of motions to settle up last year's business and fix that up? Because we can't leave that. How much is it, Chris?
I think it's just under $400, I believe.
I would like to see.
And actually, I think it's mileage that put me over.
Right. Councillor McLaughlin?
Well, I can understand where Councillor Olmsted's coming from, but in past practice, that was past practice, and I know I paid money back, and the next year I surplus because I didn't go to or went a different way. So I've paid as well. I don't know, and I agree with what Reeve Miller's saying, but in all fairness, if we want to start now, I think you do it now. Past practice might bring back, because I know there's other councillors that paid back money at that time as well, in their times, because they were over. So it's just a thought. I'm just going to put that on the table.
Can you bring this as a motion at another meeting, and then it'll be discussed then? So that's a separate issue for 2015 allotment, that whether or not be reimbursed. I think the problem is when you have new council members that are not aware of the fact that they are going to have to pay that amount back at the end of the year, it becomes difficult to understand why they have to at this time, and especially when there's a surplus amount. But I would suggest that motion be brought at a different time and discuss it then, so we can move on with this. So number 10, meal allowance.
So your meal allowance, making recommendation that it's a 45 daily maximum and within Renfrew County, receipts required, and then recommend for outside of Renfrew County, $75 daily maximum, no receipt required.
Any comments, Reeve Miller?
I would be happy with it. Not a big deal, but with possible exception that a breakfast at the Royal York is $28 plus tip. So you eat pretty little the rest of the day if you want to stay in the budget. But I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it.
Councillor McLaughlin.
Yeah, I can see where Reeve Miller's coming from. The problem I had, I was traveling out of the county, but stopped in the county for breakfast, and I put in, I just normally out of the county, because I was going out of the county, and no, that was in the county. So I just, that to me, it wasn't the difference in the money. It's like, well, I certainly didn't try. It wasn't my intentions. I just thought that that's a good spot to stop, because you either stop in Arm Prior or you stop in Smith Falls. So I stopped in Arm Prior, and when I did up my sheet, I just charged it all out. But that's just, I've learned difference, and now I drive to Smith Falls, so there's no problems.
Are we good with this? The $45 daily with receipts and $75 with no receipts outside of the county? Okay. Number 11, benefits.
So number 11 on the report, there are more municipalities at a local level that are giving consideration to offering a EHC and dental program as part of the municipal council remuneration. In particular, in a rural environment where there are many people that are self-employed, it is an attractor. It's not the deciding decision for somebody to move forward, but it is an added benefit. I know it's something that we extend at the county level to our councillors, and I know it's certainly something that's appreciated. There are a number of other local municipalities that now have started to provide that particular benefit. So in my original recommendation, there was a recommendation to cost that. So I'm not sure exactly what the cost would be associated as it relates to the benefit program, and I don't know if you took a step to do that, Marcia.
No, I haven't.
Do you want page that's on?
So then if I could, Madam Chair, in looking at the report that Christine has drafted, the total that's listed on the last page, the $16,318.14, based on the recommendations that were made, doesn't include the benefits, just so everybody's clear. Okay?
Yeah. So it's on page 49 of our package, if you're going by page number.
My apologies, what is on 49?
The list of participating municipalities.
Oh, okay.
So the county of Renfrew, for instance, provides basic life. Oh, thank you. Basic life, extended health and dental. Township of Admast and Bromley. Basic life, extended health care and dental care. Town of Arm Prior, extended health care, dental care. Township of Horton, basic life, extended health care, dental care. These are all surprising to me. Town of Renfrew, basic life, extended health care, and dental care. So, some of them are paid at 100%, some of them are paid at a different rate. Do you know offhand, Bruce, if these are all paid coverage at 100%, or are they at a shared cost?
I don't know specifically, but most of the models that I've looked at have been 100% covered by the council. So if you want me to verify that, we can go away and verify that and get them back to you.
Is anybody interested in this sort of coverage for council members? Reeve Miller?
Yeah, I think that'd be a great thing to have here. I buy medications and quite a bit of them every month for diabetes, and it's got to be 100%. I think I'm paying $4 or $5 every time, and I think that's just a dispensing fee. And it's the same thing with my dental. I don't even get any bill for the dental.
So if I could comment, so where you have a Reeve attending county council, we had a debate at county council where local municipalities are providing benefits. The councillor has the option to submit that through the county's plan or the local plan, and most of the individuals are submitting through the county plan in terms of absorbing that cost because we factored that in. So we see that in our utilization. So just so you're aware, for that particular councillor, it's what you would be paying is the per diems, right? Because you still have to pay per diems as part of your plan. Because as I would understand it, Marcia, I would believe that ultimately all of your members of council would have to be participants, or is there an option within your plan where one of the councillors could opt out? So I'm not clear what your rules are for your particular plan.
For our current plan,
Yeah.
for our Manulife plan, any staff member can sign up for health or dental or not. So that is an option for everybody.
So that's probably would be extended to the elected.
The only thing they're not allowed, if they don't have an option, would be the life insurance. That's an automatic. But a lot of our staff have a spouse that may have a little bit better plan than we do.
And if I could, do you happen to have the premium rates as it relates to per 100 for the staff? Because you can get an idea sitting here right now what you're talking about in terms of cost per councillor, and what you're looking at it for per diems is pretty minor. So if you were looking at your EHC premium, I suspect that's somewhere in the neighborhood of...
Well, it's about, first of all, we have family and single.
Correct.
So would this be something that just for each council member or their family?
What I would recommend is that you extend it to the council member and their family. So if they choose family status, is extended to them. So by way of example, with County Renfrew, we let them decide whether it's single or family. So it's something that gets extended beyond just you as the individual. And that's the way all the plans are.
And we're broken down to 80% for both health and dental that the staff pays. 80% that the municipality pays and 20%.
So you have a cost share program. So whether or not you want to consider the same cost share program for your councillors, like an 80-20 split, it's that's for you to consider. But you would have your rates in terms of EHC and dental?
Yes, I don't have them in front of me, sorry.
But just ballpark it.
But probably for family would be about $200 and some total. Say $230 total for family and $142, say, for single.
And
but then again, that number is split down to 80%.
And is that annual?
That is monthly.
Monthly. So just so you understand the...
Approximately about $240 for a family monthly, and then the municipality pays 80% of that, and then the staff pay 20%. That comes off their pay.
So perhaps what I could suggest is that further information has to come forward to see whether or not that same rate would apply for council members as it does for the staff members from the particular healthcare provider or the contract.
So I can pretty much confirm as a coordinator or chair of the MBC, which is the Municipal Benefits Committee, that the rates for the municipality will flow to the player or to the councillors. The only thing that's different is if you have LTD coverage, and typically you don't provide LTD coverage to the elected officials as a program, so you're looking at those as rates. So you're talking probably in the neighborhood of $2,500, $3,000 per councillor to extend a benefit plan to these individuals that they could either do a single or a family.
So is everybody in favor of that, or do you want to get further information and bring it back at another time? Favor, yes, now, or bring it back? Yes, now, as a direction, or bring information back later?
I can go both ways. I would certainly be totally in favor of
moving forward and adopting this, whether we put it in 217, 218, it makes no difference, but I think it's something that needs to be, and maybe will, as it said in the report, would maybe encourage more people to run, because in my mind, I know that I don't have the benefits, and to me, I used to have the benefits, and now I don't, and I certainly miss the dental benefits for sure.
Bruce, just a question. So that is also included in the counselor's expenses in that table?
Yes.
So that's also included there. So then when you're adding that on, it moves you up even more so. So I think we would have to take a look at the overall impact and see where we would sit when we come to the 13,000 plus 1,800 plus the number of meetings, and we determine that, where we actually will sit on this grid.
So, if I may, Madam Chair, sorry, Chris?
Yeah.
All I was gonna say was, I think I'd like some time to review it. It's not, I don't think all of us would be using it. Some of us may, some of us may not, but I don't think it's a cost we'd want to incur on the township if we're not gonna use the benefits, so I think I'd like time to review it.
And the other factor that comes into play is, in the past, normally, there are elderly council members, and usually your experience rating goes higher, so therefore it could increase the overall rate. So that could be a factor. It may not be a factor, but it could be a factor, depending on what kind of claims are claimed against the municipality for those as well. So it can increase overall, and it may decrease overall, but it does make a difference.
Did you use the word experience instead of age?
No, it's an experience rating that the insurance companies do.
Like I said.
It has nothing to do with age, but it does sometimes. Bruce?
What I would recommend that this council gives consideration to, while I've made a recommendation for implementation of January 2018, is that you ask Marcia to prepare a paper that shows you exactly what your benefits are, because you have orthodontics, you have major restoratives, so you need to understand what it is you're purchasing. So what I'd recommend is that Marcia come back, not to tell Marcia what to do, but your staff come back and provide you with a report of what is the defined benefit, so what does that look like, what is covered under EHC, what are the premiums associated with that. Typically that can come back to you in a buffet style, so if you have major restorative in there, root canals and those types of things, on top of the other basic benefits, how much more is that? So typically those thresholds get set, and then you can look at the buffet and say what works for you and what do you want. Clearly from my perspective, as we all get older, the dental benefit and certainly the EHC benefit, the drug benefit, is a huge issue for you to give consideration, but make an informed decision and have a report that you can make an informed decision from.
Is everybody okay with that? We need more information? Okay. Page we're at. Christine?
I would really appreciate, and I think Marcia would too, if when we're done, we could just quickly do a recap so that we're all on the same page about what the next steps are, what needs to be brought back, what needs to be prepared for a next meeting, if you don't mind.
Madam Chair, if you don't mind, I've got a couple calls from legal, so I'd just like to step out and take that call while you do your recap, unless there's anything else from this report, because I think I'm at the end of this report.
Yeah, I think so too. So we'll just do a quick, and we can take a break. Councillor McLaughlin, do you have something?
I just kind of want to go back to item 9, and I remember what I think Councillor Rager said about everybody's working. At one time, we used to get paid a certain amount per day to attend conferences. If you would get $120 a day for a full day, or if it was a half-day conference, you would get, I think, $60. And I wonder if something like that should be. I remember, and I know the mayor has brought this up before, that, but I also would like to see it still within your $3,000. So it's just thought of something that I think needs to be addressed, maybe up to a maximum. My mind is up to a maximum of 4 days.
And that may very well be an item that we might want to identify in number 7 for a meeting per diem, that whether or not while attending conferences or training, it's included in your meeting per diem. So we could discuss that at a later date as well.
Okay, yeah, I mean, if you're gonna put it in that per diem, that's fine. I just think it's something that needs to be. Thought it should go under conferences, because I would like to see it to a maximum of 4 days, or $400.
Okay, so just to recap, do you want to recap now, or do you want to recap after we come back from a quick break? Let's go for break. I have to go for a bio break.
A what? Bio break.